those are kind of my favorite types of cases because it gives you a chance to dig in and really advocate for someone that's been injured at work.
How do you approach claim resolution for workers' comp in Atlanta? We're going to talk to attorney Rebecca Halberg about that on today's episode of Ask the Lawyer. Rebecca, thanks for joining us.
Great. Thanks for having me, Molly.
First off, can you describe your approach to claim resolution in workers' compensation cases?
Absolutely. As soon as a claim comes in the door, we evaluate it to determine best next steps for the client. So does that mean that we move the claim towards settlement? Is it something that we think we're going to have to take to a hearing to get resolved? Or is the client already receiving benefits and we can just help facilitate that to move them toward closure?
How do you navigate the claim resolution process to ensure the best outcome for your clients?
The key to doing the best analysis regarding outcome, which typically comes down to money and settlement, is making sure that we have complete copies of all medical records, the employee's personnel file, and we do a very thorough analysis regarding future medical needs and our client's potential ability to return to work. Once we have all of that information, we are typically in a position to evaluate it for settlement, which is the best way to resolve a claim. And we take into account all of that information to get as much money as we can for our clients to allow them to have the best future possible.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of strategy involved in this. What strategies do you employ to effectively kind of negotiate and settle workers' compensation claims in Atlanta?
So prior to representing injured workers, I was a defense attorney for about a decade. And during that time, I kind of saw firsthand how insurance companies and employers evaluate claims. One of the key things that I find is getting our clients to the best doctors. And those aren't necessarily the most claimant-friendly doctors. They're the doctors with the best reputations and doctors that I would trust my own family and friends to go to. So if you can get them in the hands of good doctors, you can get good care and good trustworthy recommendations regarding future treatment and potential impairment.
Now, I'm sure that you have negotiated and represented a lot of these cases. Can you give us an example of maybe one of the tougher workers' compensation cases that you were able to successfully negotiate and how you did that?
Absolutely. I've got one that we actually just resolved. It was a client. He had actually 2 hip replacements, one on each side. And it took us a long time to work through the treatment process and get approval. We were able to get him with a really good doctor. And when it came time to settle, we sat down with the doctor. We talked about our client's future medical needs and whether or not he'd be able to return to work. And so I find that when you can get the doctor to respond to those questions in writing, so you've got something in paper, you can sit down and come up with a very thorough analysis regarding what your client is going to need and if they're going to go back to work. Because that's the key information you needed. So we sat down with the client with all of the information from the doctors. And I really like to go through a game plan with my clients so that they know, A, what the insurance company's exposure is for workers' compensation benefits, but B, also what they're likely to pay out, because they don't pay dollar for dollar on future medical and lost time from work, but they do pay a pretty decent chunk. But you've got to give the insurance company as much information as possible to get the best resolution possible.
I'm sure that these cases can be a little bit contentious. How do you handle disputes or disagreements during the claim resolution process, such as denied or disputed claims?
Well, that happens a lot. Not a lot of attorneys like to take a denied case. When I do an intake with a client, though, I'll take a denied case. Sometimes you see insurance companies automatically deny something, and I think it's just to see if people will go away. Those are kind of my favorite types of cases because it gives you a chance to dig in and really advocate for someone that's been injured at work. So if a claim has been denied, I think it's really important to get a complete copy of the employee's personnel file, interview any potential witnesses. It's also super helpful if coworkers no longer work for the employer and we can reach out to them and talk to them about what happened. And then we just try to build the best case that we can. Unfortunately, in denied cases, workers' compensation typically is not providing medical treatment. And so we also help facilitate medical care either through our client's health insurance, or we'll send them out for something called an independent medical examination with a doctor to get recommendations for treatment needs.
So, Rebecca, what role does communication play when you're trying to facilitate a claim resolution with all of the parties involved, insurance companies, employers, and then also other relevant parties?
I think communication is key. Even if a client has a bad case, keeping them up to date and letting them know what you're doing on their behalf, I think builds a certain level of confidence that makes it a lot easier when you're moving toward the resolution process. I also try to have a good relationship and open communication with defense counsel. Um, Certainly they're not, a lot of them are my friends, but we can also have like differing opinions and still talk and have, normal conversation and advocate for our clients. Certainly there are other attorneys that take way more aggressive, stances or communication styles, and that might work for them. But I just find, for me personally, communicating like I do with anybody else has worked the best.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Always nice to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Molly. Have a great day.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyers. My guest has been attorney Rebecca Halberg. If you'd like to ask her about your situation, call the number on your screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Molly Hendrickson for Ask the Lawyers.